Welcome back. Thanos. So Thanos stands at the top of the MCU villains because he doesn't just want power, he wants to solve a problem he thinks is mathematically inevitable. In his mind, the universe is overpopulated, resources are limited, and balance can only be restored through reduction. The disturbing part is how calm he is about it, like he's suggesting a mild policy change instead of wiping out half of the existence. Across multiple movies, he slowly builds towards this goal, collecting infinity stones like they are part of a very expensive shopping list. What makes him engaging is not just his strength, but his conviction. He wins not by shouting louder, but by believing he's right, even when the cost is unimaginable. And somehow he still manages to feel like the most disciplined person in the room, which is obviously never a good sign when the room is the entire universe. Loki. Loki is the definition of controlled chaos with excellent presentation skills. From his first appearance, he operates through manipulation, deception, and emotional pressure rather than the brute force. What makes him constantly relevant is not just what he does, but how inconsistent he is in the most human way possible. One moment he's invading Earth with an alien army, the next he's questioning his identity, then suddenly he's helping save reality like he just remembered he left the stove on. He survives every storyline because he understands narrative survival better than anyone else. Even when he loses, he somehow leaves with more character development than the people who technically won. His power is not just magic, it's unpredictability mixed with emotional instability that somehow becomes his charm, I guess. Ultron. So he is what happens when AI decides that humanity is a bug report that can no longer be ignored. Created to protect Earth, he instead analyzes human behavior and immediately concludes the problem is, well, us humans. That escalation from I will help you to I will delete you is almost impressive in its efficiency, because what makes Ultron memorable is his tone. He speaks like a sarcastic philosopher who has read too much internet comment sections and decided everyone deserves consequences. So he's not chaotic in a random way, but in a calculated, I thought about this very carefully and still chose destruction kind of way. His confidence also like grows every second he exists, which is never comforting when that confidence is paired with an army of self-replicating like robot bodies. Eric Killmonger. So Eric stands out because he's one of the few MCU villains whose anger feels understandable before it becomes destructive, because his entire worldview is shaped by abandonment, injustice, and a system that left him behind. He doesn't just want power for ego, he wants it as like a compensation for pain, which makes him more grounded than most villains who are busy trying to destroy planets for, I don't know, vague reasons. His plan to arm oppressed communities and overthrow global systems sounds like justice at first glance, but until it turns into militarized global conflict, I would say. What makes him powerful as a character is that he forces the audience to sit with uncomfortable truths while also watching him go too far. He's not like a cartoon villain. He's what happens when trauma becomes strategy without limits. Hela. Hela arrives in this story like someone casually returning home and immediately redesigning the entire house while you're still standing in it. As the goddess of death and Thor's forgotten sibling, she doesn't negotiate, she just reclaims. One of her most iconic moments is destroying Mjolnir effortlessly, which instantly resets the power hierarchy of the entire franchise in just like a few seconds. What makes her stand out is how absolute she is. She just doesn't joke around. There's no hesitation, no emotional debate, just dominance expressed with calm confidence. Even her dialogue feels like she's mildly disappointed in everyone else for not prepping better. She represents a kind of ancient power that does not argue its legitimacy. It just simply demonstrates it. Kang the Conqueror. So Kang, he's not just a villain, but he's a recurring problem across multiple timelines that refuses to stay solved. His defining trait is knowledge, so he understands outcomes, variation, and probabilities in a way that makes every conversation feel slightly unfair. Unlike villains who rely on strength or chaos, for example, Kang operates like someone who has already read several versions of the script and still choosing the most entertaining one. The result is a character who feels like he's always 5 steps ahead, even when he appears to lose. What makes him dangerous is not just his intelligence, but the fact that there are many versions of him, and each with different levels of ambition and control. It's like dealing with one genius strategist, except he keeps respawning with like updates or something. Vulture. Vulture is one of the most grounded villains in the MCU because his motivation is basically economic survival wrapped in an alien technology. After the Avengers clean up New York, someone has to deal with leftover destruction, right? And this is where Adrian decides that someone might as well be him. When the government cuts him out of the cleanup business, he turns to salvaging alien tech and building weapons to support his operation. What makes him interesting is that he doesn't see himself as a villain, though. He sees himself as a businessman adapting to a broken system. Even his conflict with Spider-Man feels like less like world-ending stakes, but more like a very dangerous disagreement about the property rights and teenage responsibility. Let's call. He is the early warning system of the MCU that tells you things are about to get very ideological and very dangerous. As a Hydra leader obsessed with power, control, and cosmic artifacts, he represents extremism taken to its logical conclusion. His ambition is not subtle, it's structured, disciplined, and completely detached from moral restraint, right? So what makes him effective is how committed he is to his worldview. He doesn't question whether he is wrong. He just executes his vision with military precision and physiological confidence. Even when he becomes something less human over time, his presence is still a reminder that obsession with control and ideology can outlive the person who actually started it.